Hey guys, welcome back to Just Anime Club.
Just Anime Club?
Just Anime Club.
Today we are going to discuss a fairly recent anime, which is Parasyte.
Parasyte! With a Y.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Clarification.
First impressions in Asia.
Oh. First impressions? Like, what did we think before we watched it or after watching
Yeah,
it?
what did you think when you first... Wait, how did you find the anime? Did you
Okay.
find it before I told you about it?
Yes. I found the anime through an ad on Crunchyroll when I had a free account and you had to watch a bajillion ads. Those ads. One of them was for
they were
Parasyte.
beneficial then. Huh?
One of them was from Parasyte, and I was like, that looks really creepy, but also probably really cool.
Only an 8? No, I'm sure.
So then when you mentioned it, creepy but cool, just like me. And then I thought,
Perfect fit.
once you mentioned it, I thought it would be interesting to look into. I was skeptical. I was nervous because it looked dark, and dark shows kind of get to me sometimes. But
I felt the same way. I was scrolling through the Crunchyroll anime, and I saw it a couple of times, and I always thought, I don't think I'm in the mood for that. But then eventually I checked it out, and it is actually a very interesting anime.
it was intriguing looking. And then, yeah. So that's my first impression.
My
Huck.
first impression was, what the heck?
What the heck?
Yeah, it was pretty much, what am I watching? And I just want to keep on watching it for some reason. So,
Yeah, it's very catching at the first, even that first episode. It's one of those that I was just hooked. Like, I wanted to. It's such an interesting premise.
It started out pretty crazy too, like with flashbacks and dreams and all that kind of mixed together. Like, not chronological necessarily. So I guess they did a good job on the first episode to hook people.
Yeah, I felt like, well, and just the premise of the story itself was not something that I had seen before, So I was intrigued by that.
I also really like the detailed art style in that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember later on there's an episode where you can literally see the snowflakes. Usually it's just these blurred out white things that fall down, but they were so detailed and individual. I just loved it.
They did have a really good attention to detail. And a lot of something about the way they did the lighting in the environments. They did really good with like giving things a glow whenever they were outside. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was something that I really liked. Artistically,
No
aesthetically.
no,
like,
a lot
too much
of
blood.
my comments, I think I'm going to wait a little bit further in because I really liked it. Like, it was one that I was really happy that was put in front of me because it brings up a lot of points that I really like to discuss about. So
Save them. Yeah.
Save 'em.
Well, let's just,
Savor
why don't we
and
just
save
dive
them.
right in?
Oh, you want to dive right in?
Yeah, let's just dive in. Let's
right
talk
in.
about, can we talk about Shinichi and Shinichi?
Shinichi.
Yeah, I was like, am I
Shinichi.
saying that right?
No,
Shinichi
yeah.
and Migi, like their relationship, like how it starts, where he's a parasite in his hand, taken over, totally logical, but like,
I mean,
lacks any empathy or emotion, and
it
just
never is
how they
explained where it
change.
actually comes from, right? It's
No.
just these little balls that fall from the sky
Right.
somehow.
All they say is one day someone thought, what was
a
it?
sudden thought or something.
There
like
was a
that.
sudden thought. Oh,
Was it
shoot.
something about people being the poison of the world? or
Yeah, it
something
was
like that?
something about. Oh gosh, it was something about like fixing the world.
Well, that's all later though.
I can't
But it's
remember.
not explained if it's
Yeah,
actually
but I think
something
that's
that evolution brought in, or if it's something that was really from outer space.
Right, right.
that is
they
not
never,
explained.
yeah, they never specify where it comes from. That's.
I
very
think they
true.
don't specify for a reason, though.
Yeah, of course. But the first thought that I had is aliens.
Right, right. Well,
Like
that's
when it
kind
came
of
down
what
and
it
this little
seemed like they
snake came into his
hinted.
room.
Well, maybe
That's
it
the
was
first thing I
a
thought.
genetic mutation that someone was with that thought decided to get rid of humans.
Maybe.
and-
Oh,
Like a man-made
Do you
thing?
think it could be like a human creation even?
Could
yeah,
be.
I mean, it
That would
could
be crazy. That would be a plot twist.
For
That would be a
me,
plot
for me, it
twist.
makes a lot of sense. I mean, if a human created something to try to destroy man, it would have to take over it. It'd have to take over the body, pretty much, or outright kill it. And that's what these things do. They take over a body.
Right. Well, and it's interesting that even like Migi's understanding of his own race. It's interesting that we have a limited picture of where they came from and who they are, just like they do. And so
that's right. They don't even know themselves.
It's cool that like Migi and Tamiya, I think, is it Tamiya? Is that how you pronounce her name? Just their experience of trying to figure out what they are, and what their purpose is, And he says like that my first thought was just, oh man, I didn't get to your brain.
Yeah.
Like their instinct is to go to the brain, eat the brain, and then exist, But then beyond that, they start to think, well, maybe we're here just to eat people, or maybe we're here to limit the population to save the world, because you're destroying it, you're the parasite,
But it is only Tamiya that really thinks about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting though, because of the first episode where the dog, there was one that got into a dog's head.
Dog.
The dog only attacked humans and ate humans, though.
No, the dog.
The dog only attacked dogs and ate dogs. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't necessarily to kill humans, but to kill its like host.
Instinctive cannibalism, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what they say, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an intriguing setup.
Which is weird. So they are not specifically made to devour humans.
Mm-hmm.
If you see it like that.
Well, that could have been a human error, though. If they DNA programmed it to kill and cannibalize itself,
the same thing they occupy. Yeah, if it's humanly programmed, I mean, that's.
I don't know if it is. I'm skeptical about that, but
maybe it was an AI.
Yeah, I think it's intriguing to see though how, because when you first see Migi coming into Shinichi, at least I felt a lot of empathy for Shinichi when he's just feeling like overwhelmed by the situation and like it's an intruder, and it's a horrible situation.
I mean, he basically loses his right hand. He doesn't have control about it.
And Migi just feels like, I don't know, Migi is like strangely likable, but also very like cold. Just that coldness is scary. Yeah, and he's got his own intentions. He's a wild creature.
I really loved the early development of Migi, like what he all learned and how curious he was. And first the books, and then the when he got to the internet and learned all this different stuff. I think it was pretty well made. I loved that part.
I agree. His curiosity is pretty cool to see. But I like that you see then their relationship morph as time continues.
Interestingly enough,
they have to work together, they're forced
that is true.
To work
he said,
together.
I think he said we need to cooperate and coexist pretty much in the first episode already.
Right.
But interestingly enough, not like Tamiya, he is more focused on understanding or analyzing humans more than their own being. Yeah, I don't think Migi thinks a whole lot about their own being, but more about how humans work and how they interact.
I wonder if that's because Migi is still dependent on a human, whereas Tamiya is not.
That would be a good reason.
Also, he's probably trying to take over his human half.
I don't know. I feel like whenever he has the disappointment, like, I didn't get you to your brain.
But he doesn't seem,
he's just like, oh well, I failed.
Because mentally, he had no choice.
Yeah,
there was no choice.
Yeah. And when they first run into a parasite that has the brain, that one like mocks him. It's like, you didn't even get to your brain, and then it tries to kill him because he's a disgrace to his own race, sort of. But then he finds that it's actually helpful.
I think that's sometimes a weird mixture. Some of them like this feeling of being a disgrace for their own race, but at the same time, especially Migi just thinks as an individual. It doesn't think about its race, at least not in the beginning, or for the most part of the series. Just right until the end, basically. It doesn't think in races at all. It's just, okay, it's only me. I need to survive. I don't care what others of my kind do. If they die or if they prosper, whatever.
I wonder if
at the same time, others sometimes really feel like, what you said. Okay, you are a disgrace for our race. It doesn't really fit together.
Yeah. I wonder if that's also because like he is paired with a human. Like his host is still very much there, very much alive and in control in a way, and he's dependent on him.
He's almost a different.
So it's like he's been
species.
forced.
He's not just.
Yeah, like been forced to focus on his host more than just his own existence, and so
that is true.
Kind of interesting.
Also, from some of the other parasites, you get almost the feeling that they are proud to be a parasite, especially Gotu. But that's a topic. That's a topic for later.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't get that from Migi at all.
It's probably they probably feel superior, and that power is like power hungry almost. I mean, they're able to kill these humans that are supposed to be, top of the food chain with ease. So it's almost like a power hungry type thing in my mind.
I admit, like I don't think of them as being prideful or desiring power because they don't really have those emotions. More so, they're just rational, like logical to a fault, but and they have their natural instinct of hunger, like I need to feed, and so they just feed, and they don't think anything of it.
Only some of them develop emotions over time.
But once they start gathering and figuring out their future, once they start thinking about their future, that's when they do have to be more strategic about creating safe places to feed, and so maybe that is when the power play comes in. I don't know.
They seemed like the ones that went to the head seemed very prideful to me. I mean, like Migi didn't. Migi was not in control at all. So Migi was second intelligent. Like just the intelligent person that could try to figure things out and try to stay alive. That's all he could do. He didn't have the head. He wasn't in total control.
That's true.
Maybe that is something that is influenced. Maybe the ones that took the head really have some residual emotions. I mean, Tamiya is a perfect example. They said it in the series because she was already a smart person before the parasite got in there, and that's probably more or less the reason why she ended up being so curious.
She also said something about the way that the parasite connects with the brain, like in the moment. She said something about that instant does dictate on how the parasite will end up.
So that could be the reason for some parasites being more prideful and others more intelligent.
That they're influenced by their host, whoever they were before they took over.
I don't think it's just whoever they were. It's the manner or how it happened. Because there must be a struggle with the brain and the parasite. It's being eaten, all that information's going in. So if the person's scared, maybe that fear affects the parasite, or not just who they are, but the emotion and everything that's going on at that time when they're devouring, or what dream they're having if they're in the middle of a dream.
That's the question, if they devour the information or just the material of the brain.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, and I like that one of the things, I guess we could kind of hop ahead a little bit, but I like that situation where the parasites are existing in these human hosts. It brings up all of these conversations in the show about having like a right to exist, and about whether or not humans are actually superior to the other creatures on the planet, and then thus to the parasites. So the way that Migi, where is it? The quote that he says, it's, if you have a right to live, so do we. Granted, I believe rights are a concept unique to the human species. But just this whole thing, like, why don't we have a right to live if you do? And then he kind of calls him out on, like, you eat cows and pigs and meat and all this stuff. And
exactly. I think that was the main focus, like, in the beginning.
Yeah, and he's just like, we're doing the same thing. We're just trying to survive,
Yeah.
So it's an interesting challenge to that, which I think is pretty true of humanity, that we kind of think of ourselves as being...
Yeah, that we really are the ones that think in these special ways, which no other life form does.
That we know of, no other life form. Yeah. Thinks with that kind of complexity. So it's really intriguing. But I like that. So at the start, when you see Migi, he's like an intruder, but by the end they're friends and they have a relationship, and he has a dignity of his own, as have some of the other parasites developed as they continue to exist, like Tamiya. By the time that we should just talk about Tamiya because she's really interesting.
Yeah, she's the most interesting.
Why is she so curious? You know, like, I like that she leaves Shinichi alive just to like see what happens. You know, she's curious about their future. It's intriguing.
Well,
thoughts?
I mean, she kind of ended up kind of like Migi in the fact of wanting to learn, which was pretty cool. And I think because it's like when you watch someone or learn about something, you almost fall in love with what you're doing. And I think that's what happened with her.
Yeah.
She fell in love with the humans almost.
I mean,
she had her own human inside of her. And there has to be, you know, some sort of emotions, especially with having a baby. If it's going to be a natural baby or anything, there has to be hormones
and even if it's not emotions, because I still think the parasites don't really get emotional even by the end of it. Like, they start to try to understand it, but they're always struggling with the ability to understand emotion. However,
but they start to feel emotions.
They start to feel it. They
and even if it's so subtle that they don't notice it themselves.
The thing is that what I think, could it be that, imagine a normal human being born into an adult form. Would he have emotions, or is that something we pick up through experiences and living? Like, do they just not have enough experiences of life yet to develop these emotions? Because they take their time, but slowly but surely develop some emotions. Maybe. So do you think if they would live maybe 20 more years, they would actually get to the human standard of emotions?
Quite possibly. Well, and I think with Tamiya, rather than her like falling in love with humanity, I think she just gains a respect after she understands it. The same with Migi. Like, they as they understand it better, they start to respect one another. The same way that Shinichi gains a respect for Migi. Like, it's all, I don't know, I feel like it's that at first nobody understands each other and they're all just trying to survive, and then they start to actually communicate.
Well, I don't necessarily
and depend on each other. Yeah.
That kids are a blank slate when they're born. So my thought process is not they're absent of emotion because they were just born. To me, that doesn't make sense. Because, I mean, babies cry.
Right.
To survive.
Out of need or out of, I mean, you don't know though. There's no way to communicate with a baby and see if they're just scared or hungry. I mean, you put a bottle in someone's mouth, they're going to eat half the time.
Right.
Even if they're not hungry. So there is no 100% way of knowing exactly why a baby cries.
The complexity of those emotions at that age when you
and
can't
that's
really
all a baby can do.
them.
They can either cry or kick, smile, and like learning all these different things the body can do. And mimicking, you know, and that's why that they learn more of how to portray their emotions, not just that they learn how to be or what their emotions are.
Well, but that's exactly what the parasites do too, right? They start mimicking them, and by that learning the emotions themselves. Like Tamiya starts to mimic the laughing, and
so then they would have to have the emotions to begin
with. It's so creepy though when she first tries laughing, and then when she does the head removal thing, and she's running.
She's just running, laughing.
Oh my gosh!
That was a good
that
one.
part. I was like, I can't.
That was creepy. But she lost part of her intelligence while she was doing that because she lost that part. So
because she forfeit part of her head to take over.
I have nothing inside.
She was a clever one.
Creepy
but clever. Now, something intriguing too about this is that you see the parasites trying to learn how to express and be more like humans. Simultaneously, Shinichi is having like the opposite experience where he's starting to lose his capability to express those emotions or to even feel empathy. Like when the puppy dies and he just is like, oh, what is it that he says? I wrote it down. A dead dog isn't a dog anymore. It's just a dog-shaped lump of meat, you know?
Exactly.
And it's just like he sees it as meat now and like he just throws it in the trash. And
that all happened though because of after the incident with his mother.
Yeah. I mean, he's being like desensitized in a way. But it's also just in his inability to cry and stuff, and he says that he feels like he's lost something.
But the question is that caused by caused by all the drama he goes through, or is it caused by the
his
cells
mom
of
died by the same thing that's on his arm? I mean, these psychological things that he's going through. Yeah, he probably clammed up for a very long time.
I wonder, is it biological though, or is it it's probably a combination.
Psychological.
Because he has Migi's cells going through him now. You know?
Exactly.
And so it's not just.
So it could have been. I mean, he could have been influenced, like his body physically, because it became. I mean, it came super fit and almost pretty much superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
He became 30% parasite. Like Migi told him that 30% of his cells are now within his body.
Well, and I think whenever he has those moments where he can't breathe, where he suddenly like is overwhelmed with the emotion, it's almost like you're seeing his body struggling against the parasite inside of him. Like his human self is like so overwhelmed, he can't emotion.
And then he gives it up and the parasite takes
he
over
breathes and like then he's superhuman parasite. He becomes a parasite, kind of. He becomes very logical, very
Well, but yeah.
Which makes him stronger.
30%.
Yeah, 30%.
Well,
I think that actually is a good representation also from the decisions he makes. It's 30% parasite, but still 70% human. Like he still wants to help humans. He still
a lot of his drive is still driven by his emotions, even though
Yeah, I mean, he's still pretty. I mean, if you think about what emotions are, I mean, they're honestly chemical reactions.
Right.
So the fact that he's biologically being changed is a definite. I mean, he's going to change as a person. No matter, I mean, the cells went throughout his body. So maybe 5% of those 30% cells went to his brain. And I mean, with those properties of that cells that we don't know anything about, like there's no way to pinpoint really what he could do actually now as who he is. I mean, he could even have more abilities than he's even seeing right now.
Yeah, it's very true. So when Tamiya dies and gives him her baby, even though he winds up not even getting to care for the baby, which is kind of
the baby kind of gets lost on the way. I would be really interested to see what became of it.
I wanted
Human testing.
I really wanted Satoma. Oh my gosh, am I saying her name right? I don't think I'm saying it.
Murano?
Satomi. I really wanted Satomi to show up and like for her and Shinichi to take the baby and like raise it together. That's what I wanted to happen, but it didn't.
But
instead government came in and took the baby.
Kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I just wanted
that would have been over the top. I mean,
I wanted to see what the baby was gonna happen.
I would have loved like a glimpse into the future to see how the kid would have developed.
Yeah.
Like what would become out of it. That would
be really good at controlling their emotions, probably. I love how she's like, stop, and then it's just like.
That was epic, yeah.
And the way she carries the baby.
She can do that though, like.
Yeah, how did she do that?
Really explain like how she can do that.
How did she teach it?
Yeah, she taught it to do
I mean, every parent in the world wants to know how she did it.
Yeah.
It's true.
I love the way she carries it like a little rag.
That's not how you carry a baby usually.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But it's cool that like her experience with having a child, even though at first she just wants to like run experiments on it, that it makes her question things and it makes her wonder about her purpose in a different way and start to respect that human life, I guess. So even at the end, she's like, I've only eaten 38, which is pretty good. Like she's like.
Well, she started to learn to eat on normal food.
Yeah, and she figures out that they don't have to eat humans, which I don't know if the others know that. Do the other parasites even ever know that?
Probably some of them.
I don't know.
You know, that is the
but they're
exact
trying to
analog.
survive. So if they had known, maybe.
I mean, they figured it kind of out in the end, didn't they? And Tamiya probably told them a little bit about it too.
Maybe.
But the thing that it's supposed to represent is obviously, okay, we all eat meat every day, but we could survive on just vegetables.
Yeah, we don't have
That's exactly the same analogy
the
that
same
they used there. We
But
want
is
to
it-
eat humans. We could survive on meat,
We
but
could
we want
survive
humans.
on human food, but
Well, I think if it's more like, I mean, dogs never thought about eating dog food until we made it. So, I mean, what did we eat when we first? I mean, we attacked other animals because we needed each other.
That is true.
We needed each other to survive. So why would we kill ourselves?
right. Well, and that's that like I don't want to sound too weird, but like pack mind, you know, survival instinct of
That is actually
keeping-
interesting. Yeah.
it's it's this idea of like keeping those who are of the same species as you, that they have more importance than other creatures, you know, that they
Yeah,
are
this is very
important to keep
interesting.
alive
That this
for
is-
your own. But is it your own survival? Is it selfish that you're dependent on them, or is it a greater? I don't know.
We're getting into some deep stuff
Oh,
here.
deep stuff. Well,
that's
this thing
pretty
raises
much
a
like
lot of those questions.
Oh, trust me,
though.
there's a lot of stuff
biology and
that-
evolution questions right there.
Yeah.
Like why did they develop this way? I bet there is some papers about that.
Yeah,
Why
sure,
animals that tend to care for their own race have a
Right.
higher chance of surviving than others. I bet there's some research on that.
I'm sure there is. I feel like I've seen stuff on
It's
that.
probably a lot about communication too. I mean, I don't think other animals and different species can really communicate to each other. because they look
they
alike.
can.
They can.
probably
No,
on
they can, but they're extremely
what we
limited.
understand.
Extremely
More than what we
limited.
understand, though. But another thing with that. Oh shoot! What was I gonna say? I did it again.
It's okay.
Totally just forgot.
It's okay. You know what? Why you think?
I had a thing.
I personally think that, especially
Oh, I
this
remember.
the whole survival and the, for me, this anime is definitely, how do I get into this without? It's a what if scenario.
Yeah.
It is a what if, and a lot of people, like you said, it talks. You think about evolution, and for someone like me, I'm like, well, if this was reality, I don't think it would be happening this way for me and my beliefs.
That would be different.
I mean, the thought process of, well, you eat animals. Well, we were given the right to eat animals for what
Right.
I believe.
That is the
So-
question.
Yeah.
So
that's what they're kind of
depends on. It
questioning, too.
depends on like how this anime is set up. Like what universe is this set up in?
Yeah,
Is it a evolutionary type universe? Which
Well, and I think those
obviously
are
I
the
think-
questions Shinichi is just having to ask
yeah.
himself. He's having to say.
I think
like,
it is definitely an evolution. Everything is explained biologically there, so
Right.
it is definitely.
Well, through the
based-
That's what
logic
they're.
of the
Yeah, that's what
creatures,
they're.
through their logic and through what they know.
Yeah.
But if we also go a creator route for this parasite type thing,
Yeah.
I mean, the creator of the parasite would have put in that type of
Drive.
thought process. So, I mean, it depends on how these things were really created. Were they
Yeah,
created by
yeah.
evolution, aliens? I mean,
Where
there's
did
all
they
those-
come from?
Where did they come from?
But that's why they left it open. I think it's just supposed to throw up a whole bunch of questions
Yeah.
about how we
I think
live.
Supposed to make you think about that. It's supposed to make you think about your identity as not just as like an individual person, but like as a species. Like, what is your role here? What are you doing?
I like
one
to
thing I
point
wanted.
out-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One last thing, sorry. One thing I like to point out, though, is that even through, like, if you want to say this is an evolutionary idea or anything like that, even the thought process of a parasite, though, like, why would a parasite be the one to take out humans? Why not another species itself more intelligent or something different instead of
Because that would take millions of years to develop.
Right, and it is
So
a species
were they
in
developed then?
itself.
the fact that you say that they were
They must be of some sort artificial, I think. I mean, either... I don't know.
because
I
they're
don't
still
think that nature
dependent
just came
on
up with
men
that.
or another animal being a parasite. So if there was the absence
But
of
it is
man,
a species in itself, even if it is parasitic.
Yeah.
it is still a species in itself. That
it is.
And that's where, like, the whole idea that I think they bring a lot of focus on is, like, the Earth as an entity. Humans are the parasites who are trying to survive on it, but that are also messing it up, is kind of what they're saying, which is why the parasites came to eradicate, or to cut back on
never
the
actually
humans,
said that's why they came, but that's what they think of
but that's
themselves.
what they kind
like
of
they
insinuate, I think, is that they're there because humans have gotten a little too carried away. Maybe. I don't know. They really leave that open.
The collective conscience have decided this.
Yeah, it's really tricky. Can we talk
but
about...
even then, their numbers are so slow that they didn't really make a difference.
Right, they didn't. Well,
and they have no way to replicate, which is the biggest problem of their effectiveness.
Well, and I think what's interesting, too, is that by the end, Migi, for example, he chooses to leave. You know, like, he chooses to go dormant.
I didn't understand why and how that happened, to be honest.
Really confusing to me. But, like, first he sacrifices himself for him. First he actually, like, says, I will die so that you can live. Yeah. Which is, like...
That was, like, the biggest character change that, like, he ever had, because it was always his own survival from the beginning.
It was his own survival.
And all of a sudden he's ready to sacrifice himself for
By that time he didn't see...
Izumi.
He didn't see a reason for him to be alive almost. I mean, think of all the things they went through. I mean, to be honest, there was no... For him, not having... The only attachment he had was to the human. And I don't even know... He might have not even liked the idea of becoming attached to a human. Because
maybe
he was starting to feel that.
He sees, too, that his species doesn't really have a future. You know? Maybe at that point he realized... that they don't, that they shouldn't be there. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it all came down to, you know? The humans won, parasites are either gone or living in undercover and try to eat normal food, behave like humans.
So he's willing to kill this ultimate parasite to save his human, you know? And so it's... And then even whenever he gives Shinichi the option where he says, like, I won't kill it because it's one of me. You know, it's one just like
that
me.
Was crazy.
And I was part of him, you know, so I know what he is, you know, and I've been there. I was part of him. But you can kill him. But he doesn't even, like, it's like he doesn't think that Shinichi won't kill him. He just says, you do it. You do it. I can't do it.
He just said, I mean, he couldn't make the decision himself, basically, is what he's expressing. I don't want to make this decision. It's up to you. And Shinichi, like, how often he changed his mind. Okay, I'm going to do it. Actually, I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
And then he walks away.
I'm gonna do it, and then he's like, "Who am I to decide whether or not this life form exists?"
But doesn't he come back and then kill?
And then he comes back.
Yeah. Then he says. That's the point where he says, "Okay, I'm not doing this for the world. I don't pretend to care about the environment. I don't pretend to care about the human race.
Or being
I just do it to
even.
protect myself and the one I love."
Right. Then it's like his own survival, you know? It comes back to that, like his own personal...
It's all about himself.
And that's exactly that was the whole questioning part. I mean, also the speech that the mayor gave while they were taking over, like, the building.
Oh my gosh, the mayor. Who's
human.
Plot twist!
That was crazy.
The
speech he gave, everyone pretends to be worried about the environment and about Earth, but... Overall, everyone is just caring, like, the human race is just caring for themselves. Yeah. Like, they don't want to die. They couldn't care less about other species of the world. Right. And I think, was it Migi who said that? Somewhere along the lines?
Shinichi says it at the end, like in his final speech. Which is a good
all
speech.
About self-gratification. Like, humans are lonely, which is why they want to keep other species around. Right. And humans want to survive, which is why they want to protect the environment.
Right. Like, it's just all about survival in the end is kind of what they're saying. Like,
there's no altruism whatsoever. It's really just the selfish part.
Well, but one thing that they say, too, the parasites observe about humans that Migi points out is that while other species protect each other and stuff, he points out that humans are the only ones that he sees that will just, like, sacrifice themselves for something else, even that's not a person, or even that's not of their own species. Whenever he sees Shinichi trying to do that, he's just like, what? It doesn't make any sense to him.
Was there an incident where he did that for another species, though?
I can't remember. I don't know that he did it for another species, but it's one of those... I can't remember when he's doing it, but it's when he's throwing himself into...
From the car in the beginning?
No, it's towards the end. Whenever Shinichi is going to fight Goto, I think even.
Oh yeah, and he wants to do it alone.
And he knows he's gonna die. He knows he's gonna die. And Migi is just like, why are you doing, you're the only race that I've seen that does this, where you're willingly going to kill yourself even. But then they also
it's
don't
not
they also
true,
talk
though.
about
There
I know,
is
yeah.
animals
there are
that
animals that
protect
do
each
that.
other this way.
And even if they're not the same species, we've seen it. So, I
that's
feel like I
not
remember
completely
that
true.
conversation though.
Well,
I thought it
Migi
was
was only
interesting.
alive for,
But
what,
he
a
read
couple
the
years?
internet.
Oh,
He
he
read
might have read
the
the
internet.
internet, but
He
apparently
read
their
the
Google
internet.
and YouTube version of that universe is not good.
Yeah.
He's seen all the
man.
GIFs.
It's a
Or
really...
maybe it was too few that he didn't calculate it in because it was just, oh, well, that happened once.
Okay. So, after the fight, after he defeated Goto and killed him, what was this last episode afterwards? What was the idea behind getting the serial killer involved again?
The serial killer. Well, it's I think it's one of those things that you're like, finally, the parasites are not a threat anymore. They're gone. We're safe. It gives you this sense of security, and then suddenly it challenges it again. It's like, but wait, it's not just these parasites. They're not the monsters. Migi was good. This human is a monster, I don't know. I think it's that it kind of brings into question, does species matter more than just your actions?
Or who is the real
and
monster.
who you are. Yeah, who's the real monster?
Yeah, but I thought that was the goal this whole time. I don't know. I kind of missed the purpose of this whole incident.
It was a weird twist at the end.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that we do see, what's his name, Yorigami? That you do see him at the beginning, too.
Yes,
He's
murdering this one woman.
Murdering the woman, and then you
beginning.
see the thing come down.
Yeah.
His character is so creepy and interesting. Because he brings a challenge, throughout the show, humans are mostly good. They're mostly doing good things and trying to fight these parasites that are killing them and stuff, except for the one who just kills everyone. I don't know if you remember him, but the soldier guy. But then Yorigami comes in, and he's one who is like the parasites. He thrives on killing other people. And so it just I don't know. I think it's just supposed to create that sort of discomfort.
Well, it succeeded in creating discomfort, but for me it kind of felt a little bit out of place.
That it's not so simple as humans don't kill other humans.
Well, humans aren't just humans, though, too.
Right.
Humans aren't, you can say, oh, they're humans.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I don't think it's the same as saying, oh, they're dogs.
Right.
I think that there's definitely more complexity to humans than...
Are you questioning the complexity of dogs, Huck?
I am. I am questioning the complexity of dogs. I do. I think humans are a lot more complex with the matter of choices. I think humans are. I think humans
That's okay. Yep.
are the ones that make choices. And that's why we're as complex as we are.
Humans. Let's say human choices have the potential to.
Have the most impact.
To affect more than themselves and more than the immediate surroundings. That is probably the main difference.
Yeah. And we've kind of put a limit on other species at ever being able to do that, though.
That's very interesting too. That the human species is almost exclusively it's so far above everyone else. That is very interesting. We must have killed off tons of competitors along our evolutionary path. to get there. Which is also pretty crazy to think about. Like, there must have been tons of other species that we basically either killed off or mixed with to get where we are.
Survive, yeah. Well, and even today, it's just one of those things. We're the powerhouse of the world, and there's a big responsibility with that. So I did feel like that was kind of what it was trying to do at the end, was to just make you question the sanctity of life, even in something that we would consider to be a lesser life form.
Do you think they overdid it a bit with these deep monologues at some point?
I loved the monologues, actually. but I just like that kind of stuff. I don't know.
I liked it, but I felt that at some points it started to get a little bit repetitive.
Yeah, they did say quite a few of the things multiple times over and over.
The one thing that got the most repetitive is when
Satomi?
Girl? Satomi. She was always like, "Are you the same?" Oh my god! I was like,
"You're
lady,
Azumi, aren't you?"
Lady, what do you just stop asking the same question over and over?
But I could
She was a little bit.
But she knew that it's the same thing as Tamiya's mom when Tamiya came home as a parasite. She said,
"Yeah,
who are you? You're not my daughter."
Yeah.
And I think she's experiencing the same thing. She sees him and she knows it's not him the way he was before,
Especially after he changed his
she's trying to understand, what
just,
happened.
It was annoying. It was just
but
annoying.
She did keep
I
saying
understood.
It
I understood the reason. Like, it was, like, I think for someone like me, yeah, it was meant to annoy me in a way that it was annoying him. Like,
right.
Like instead of
it's
sitting
annoying.
there,
And it's gotta be annoying for her too, because she.
And he lost it when she asked that one time, right? After she was already asked a couple of times. So
well, she could have been asking better questions instead of asking.
Right. But I mean, she's a high school girl.
Yeah, that is true.
She's just trying to figure it out and not get eaten.
Those poor people.
She's been through a lot too.
I mean, she was a little dense. Like, she didn't figure out a lot of stuff. I mean, when he jumped out of the window with her in her arms,
I never knew why. Well, I guess, and that's why she's maybe asking. But she never asks him directly, like, how did you do that? That wasn't human. How did you do?
Yeah,
I mean, he explained it once, I think, with the adrenaline rush.
Yeah, he did.
Twilight
he brushed it off.
story.
Brushed it off. Must have been the adrenaline. And she's like,
why did you just connect Twilight? Oh, I was okay.
I mean, I had to think about that when he said, okay, it was an adrenaline rush.
It's just the adrenaline rush.
I don't quote Twilight, so now it's ruined. It's just
okay.
God.
It's okay. Let's see.
I'm sorry.
Is there anything else that we wanted to kind of get into? I mean, we covered a lot of the big stuff, pretty much. There's a lot of interesting characters, but I feel like already.
If I had to imagine the human that would create the parasites, it would be pretty much the mayor.
Yeah.
Like, he was literally the one that brought on the idea and said, okay, humans pretend to care about the environment, but all the things they do only haphazardly, so they are still living comfortably.
Right.
Like, they never get out of their comfort zone to actually protect the environment.
I'm curious if he held those beliefs so firmly before he met the parasites, or if after getting to know the parasites, he then was able to embrace this understanding that, like, it's not fair for them, that he had, because he was trying to help them survive,
I think it was. I think
I'm curious if he felt that way beforehand.
I mean, it's exactly the mindset that someone would have that created a parasite, right?
Yeah, and he was very vibrant about it. I mean, looks like there was very deep. There's probably even a backstory there that we didn't get to see. Because I think the anime did choose to focus on a lot of the bigger questions to make people think about evolution, what we're doing as humans, why do we think so highly of ourselves,
dignity of life.
What was the quote about? Didn't they say something about? I'm not good at my history, but they talked about how we used to think the Earth was in the center of the universe, and then the sun.
Yes,
is now the center
they
of the
did.
universe.
They did reference that.
Which for me hits. Okay, whoever wrote this anime or whatever this thing is definitely is evolutionary in their thought process. I mean, definitely. But that almost solidifies it especially when they bring up, we're not the center of the universe. That's a very something like that.
It's a progression of thought that would come from that same branch.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
There's a lot of. For me, there's a lot of spiritual aspects in this
It's definitely a very critical anime towards society.
Right.
I've seen other anime. I mean, Death Note is also a prime example for something that is critical towards society.
Love it so much.
But this one is way more direct, I feel like. It's
direct to a certain point. It's a direct to a certain point, focusing the question on who are we as humans and what are we really doing? Are we selfish?
What are we doing?
What about everyone else?
And do we have the right to do what we do?
Do we have the right? Yeah. Do we have the right? Which I think are good questions to ask. It's an interesting story to do that with, But I think that's why I liked it so much, was just that I don't feel like I've watched another anime that raised those types of questions as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually,
and I think that's also the main reason why it's so popular.
Yeah, maybe so. Because it's a very reflective. Reflective.
That's actually exactly the type of anime I love, when they have a big idea about society and they bring it into an awesome story. That was great.
It's cool. It's interesting.
All right.
Well, with that, shall we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Our next live stream video, next live stream in May 3rd?
May 9th.
May 9th, 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about Trigun. So make sure you go ahead and watch that.
Already started.
Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.